Hi, this is Sandy with a little bit of glitter, and today I have a card that I created for Fawn's blog challenge. Their website is lawnfanatics.com. This particular challenge was to create a card that was inspired by a book, movie, or song. So at our house, we're all about weddings right now. We're going to have a wedding at the end of the summer, and I am a huge Carpenters fan, so I decided to use the song We've Only Just Begun. So the sentiment on this card is just a line from that song. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You can subscribe to be notified of future videos. You can follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill or on my blog, A Little Bit of Glitter. Let's get started. For the front of this card, I'm using a piece of paper from the paper collection, What's Sewing On. I believe that was introduced last summer. Anyway, I'm using one of the yellow sheets from that. I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment on the front of the card. I'm not sure what color the embossing powder is. It was just in my stash. I want to say it's from a Martha Stewart collection, but I am not for sure, so don't quote me on that. Anyway, I have used Claire's ABCs to stamp out the sentiment. And the first part of the sentiment is actually a line, as I said, from the Carpenter's song, We've Only Just Begun. I would actually sing it for you, but YouTube has some very strict copyright issues, so I will try to refrain. Just kidding. No, not really. I could probably sing this song without looking at the lyrics. I've sung it so many times. Like I said, I'm a big Carpenters fan. I'm going to use the Secret Garden window die to start creating the window for the front of my card. I'm going to go ahead and line that up, centering it on my card, making sure I'm not cutting into my sentiment above or below. I'll go ahead, tape that, and then run it through my die cut. Next, I'm going to cut out the frame and the flowery part of the Secret Garden window. I'm using a piece of yellow spiffy speckle paper. I've cut a piece of cardstock that's 8.5 by 11 in half widthwise, so my cardstock is now 4.25 by 5.5. I will score that at 4.25 and then fold it. I am going to start creating the window on the front of my card. I found that the easiest way to do this is to lay the piece of pattern paper on top of the cardstock, and then that window that I cut out of the pattern paper, I'm going to place in that opening where you see the blank cardstock. I'm also going to put a little bit of removable adhesive on the back of that window. That way, once I get it placed in that opening, it won't move around, and it'll be easier for me to place my die cut on top of that. I've got my die cut placed, and I'll go ahead and run that through my machine, making sure that I keep that paper open. I don't want to cut all the way through both pieces. Now that I have my window openings, I want to go ahead and put in my window, so I'm cutting a piece of acetate a little bit smaller than the front of my card. I will use some strong double-sided adhesive tape to glue the acetate to the cardstock, and I will also use the same tape to glue the pattern paper to the acetate. I think you could get by with just the regular tape runner, but I just didn't want to leave anything to chance, especially if I was going to be giving it away. I don't want anything to fall off the front of that card. I'll use liquid glue to adhere the flower frame on the front of the acetate. I think the acetate works really well because it gives the frame piece a real nice bed to rest on. Now that I've got the mechanics of the outside done, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the inside. I don't want to cut out all my little pieces. I want to stamp them directly on my cardstock. So I am going to start with a piece of cardstock cut at 5.5 by 4.25. I've stamped my sentiment using Claire's ABCs at the top and at the bottom. Now I've made a card like this before, so I actually have what I call my guide card. And so what I'll do is I will just stamp what I want on a piece of scrap cardstock, exactly the size of the card that I'm going to be stamping on to put inside of my card. So I'm going to start with the top hat and the veil first. I'm going to lay my stamp pieces on top of that. Go ahead, shut my MISTI. I will remove my guide card, put in my actual card that's going to be in the card. So many card words. And then stamp that on top. I will use a mask that I've cut out from Post-it tape and cover up the top hat and the veil, and then move on to my little dogs. So again, I'm going to put in my guide card. I'm going to rest my dogs exactly on top of where I stamped those. Shut my MISTI. Open my MISTI. Then I will take my card that is going to be inside of the card, put it in my MISTI, and stamp my dogs. Then once that ink is dry, I will mask those off. And then one more time, I will put my guide card in my MISTI. I will lay my little wedding arch on top of the guide, shut my MISTI, open my MISTI, put my actual card in the MISTI, and stamp it. I am also going to be masking off the arch because I want to ink blend the ground and the sky on top of it. It seems like an awful lot of steps, but to me it's just the easiest to get things lined up exactly the way I want them. And the beauty of it is if you do one card, you can keep your guide and your masks separate or with your stamp set and just use it on multiple cards, if that makes any sense. I'm going to lay down my hillside stencil exactly where I want the ground to be for my little couple to stand on. And then I'm going to use some Bundled Sage Distress Oxide ink to go ahead and ink that area. Then I'll go back in and just spatter it a little bit with some watered down ink. I do that just to give that ground just a little bit more dimension. Now I've moved my mask down to cover up the little grassy area that I just inked. I'm going to use my cloudy stencil and some Sponge Sugar Distress Oxide ink. And I'm going to lightly ink in some little clouds, moving all the way down that card until I get down to the hillside. Actually, I'll stop my clouds a little bit before the hillside and then just kind of blend my ink right along that grassy area just to kind of create a little bit of a horizon. Once I'm happy with my clouds the way they are, I will water down some of the Sponge Sugar ink and go ahead and just spatter that cloud, the cloudy sky, just to give it a little bit of definition, a little bit of interest. That ink is so light that you can barely see it. I probably should have used a darker color. Okay, now it's the fun part. This is where the magic happens. I'm going to go ahead and use my X-Acto knife to remove the masks that I put down over my little stamped area. And you can see how pretty that is. There might be a few little spots that don't have any ink on them, that are kind of like stark white, that aren't really part of the stamping set. So I'll just go back and try to find a Copic marker that kind of matches pretty close and just kind of just ink that area in a little bit. Usually those areas are so small you don't really have to worry too much about matching the color exact. I'm using Copic markers in the following colors to go ahead and color in my little wedding couple and the little wedding arch. The colors I'm using are V91, V93, V95, R81, R83, G40, G82, G20, N0, N1, N2, N3, E30, E31, E33, YR30, YR31, and YR21. On the front of the card, when I start coloring in my leaves and flowers on the little secret garden window, the little flower frame, I will also be using a G40 and a YG62 for the leaves on those. Oof, that was a lot of coloring. So now I'm going to go ahead and adhere the inside of the card to the inside of the card. Here we go with the cards again. Once I got done with the outside, I looked at it and thought it just seemed a little bit bare in the two corners, in the upper right-hand corner and the lower left-hand corner. So I went ahead and just die cut some of the flowers and stems that come with that Secret Garden window and colored those in, and then just kind of glued them up in those corners just to kind of finish off that front. That pretty much does it for this card. I'm sorry that you weren't able to hear me sing. We've only just begun, but you know YouTube and their copyrights. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my videos by hitting that subscribe button. That way you'll be notified of future videos. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdell or on my blog, A Little Bit of Glitter. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.